Ready for another edition of Warpaint TV? Brought to you by Cotman Transmission, Olathe, Kansas, 913-768-1000.
Welcome back to Warpaint TV. Once again, I'm Shane Williams here with Chiefs insider Nick Athen. Nick, a year ago today, the Kansas City Chiefs were picking Eric Berry with the 5th overall pick in the 2010 NFL Draft. Now, a year later, we sit here and wait for Judge Susan Nelson's ruling. Tuesday, we heard that there's going to be some postponement until May 16th. What do you think is going to end up happening? Or what do you think about it being postponed until May 16th?
Well, I don't think that necessarily means that they're not going to keep talking. I think what's going to happen is you're going to get some small groups that are going to start talking. Maybe some of the rank and file players, the 95% that are virtually being ignored by DeMaurice Smith, who's the head of the NFLPA, and also the executive committee that make up the NFLPA that's sitting in the negotiating room, which is kind of ironic because they're trying to decertify, yet they're still acting as a union. What's going to happen is I think the rank and file are going to finally be heard. I think the second, third, and fourth-year players, the guys that aren't the superstars, not the guys that are named in the lawsuit, are exactly on the committee, are probably going to approach ownership and start talking. This is kind of similar to what happened, when we had the old Bill Moss shotgun back of the pickup truck scab player thing, which was Jack Del Rio, which was actually, it was great theater, it was great entertainment. I've talked to Bill about it a couple of times, and we've laughed about it. And what's interesting about all that is it's not going to come to that. But Judge Susan Nelson, she's going to be the person I think that ultimately decides when this thing is over with. She's going to rule presumably anytime between now and possibly Monday, which she's going to see if the lockout can be lifted. If it is, then it opens a can of worms. Okay, did they work on the old system for a year? Do we have to go through this mess again? Are we in a situation where free agency is going to begin maybe as early as Tuesday night before the Thursday draft, which I know Scott Pioli and company on Kansas City Chiefs GM would love to be able to get some free agents signed. I think, like we talked about last week, they got some wink-wink deals, I think, with a couple of players. I've heard a defensive end. I've heard a middle linebacker as possibly guys. I don't know names, but I've heard that they've had some contacts. So we'll kind of see how that all shakes out. But once she rules, that's gonna pretty much let us know what's going to happen. If she rules in a player's favor, then the NFL owners have to decide, do they appeal, which they will, which is going to go to a completely different circuit court in St. Louis versus where they are in Minneapolis. That's going to take at least a month. They're not going to reconvene for a month because the magistrate right now, who's negotiating, trying to work on peace with these two sides, is basically tied up for the next month in other court cases. Again, I've said this before, and I'll say this again. The players have no accountability right now. They have no desire to get a deal done. They were offered a heck of an opportunity a couple of 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, basically giving up 2 or 3%. They'd have made 4 or 5% on the back end of the deal. They would have clearly made up the difference. DeMaurice Smith, again, he's running his mouth or not speaking or whatever he's doing, but he's running the shit in the ground. At some point, the players who are the 90-95% are going to stand up and be heard, and ultimately they'll decide what happens.
The perception with the players' union, the owners are coming out, and Roger Goodell as well, is saying there's going to be football this fall. The players they seem a bit bitter, and they seem uptight. They seem real defensive about it. They're not really showing as much emotion as the owners and Roger Goodell. What do you think about that?
Well, here's the problem. The problem is the players want to act as partners, and they're not. They're not business guys. We could sit here for probably 2 days and talk about players that we know that have just shelled out hundreds of thousands of dollars without contracts to their friends to start businesses. I mean, they're not business guys. The guys that are on the executive committee, they've made their money. They've got their tens and 20s of millions of dollars in the bank. Some of them invested it wisely. Other guys get broke in 5 or 6 years. I had lunch yesterday with Bobby Bell, and not to throw names out, but we talked about this situation in particular. And he goes, some guys who've been in the league 5, 6 years, they're broke when they're done because they don't know how to manage the money. So we're asking guys like that to sit here and say, well, we want to see the owner's books. Well, no offense to the players, but they're contract labor. Now, if they want to be partners, like I said 1,000 times, then take the risk. If Albert Haynesworth doesn't play up to his $20 million contract, in year 2 he's supposed to get 10, you know what? Give 5 back. What's wrong with that? Now, if they want to be partners, that's the only way to go. Right now, the best they can do is hope they get a decent percentage of revenue, which the players have offered. But you're asking non-business guys to make business decisions, And again, I'm not insulting the players on any level whatsoever. They've got smart lawyers. There's some very good people on the board that are trying to get a deal done, but I don't think they have everybody's best interest in mind. If they did, they would realize that, you know what, we're not going to win this round. The players have won every single round. When Gene Upshaw was here, this deal would have got done. It would have favored the players because he was that strong. He had the best of his relationship with Paul Tagliabue, who negotiated the last deal. They had a good relationship. They wanted labor peace at all costs. The owners swallowed the deal. The caveat that Tagliabue put in was an opportunity to opt out. Everybody knew they were going to opt out. The players knew they were going to get basically a 3-year free ride. And now it's all come to fruition. They knew it was going to happen. They didn't do anything about it. They don't want to be perceived as the losers. And they're going to lose this round. There is nothing that's going to prevent that from happening. And they almost have to say, you know what, let's take our lumps. Let's do what's best for the league. Let's take care of our players. Let's expand the rosters. Let's shorten training camp. Let's shorten the off-season workouts. Let's get better benefits. Let's take care of the old players who made this game what it is. And until they come to that realization, we may not be playing football come September. It may be October before we see our first week of NFL action.
We'll be back to talk about the Chiefs' first 3 picks after a brief message from our friends at Cotman Transmission.
My experience at Cotman was phenomenal.
They worked on my car while I waited. I was in and out in maybe like 30 minutes.
When you're dealing with your car, you drive it every day. You need someone that you can trust to work on it.
It's a good experience.
I'm a Cotman customer for life.
I trust Cotman.
He's my Cotman man, and he keeps me rolling along.
All right, now my favorite subject. Let's talk football. I'm tired of talking about lockouts and holdouts and union. This is my favorite time because, like I said at the start of the show, Eric Berry started it off a year ago today with the pick. We were all excited. We couldn't wait. We had the best safety to come out in years to come. Now the Chiefs pick 21st. I know it's not as exciting as picking 5th, but now that they're going to be sitting there with the 21st pick, you know, it's a good hour and a half, 2 hours in the draft after it starts. What do you think? 21st pick rolls around. Who do you think the Chiefs are going to grab, buddy?
Well, I mean, they've got a lot of needs, and I think that for me personally, they have to strengthen the offensive line. And Mike Pouncey, the center from Florida, to me, is just a guy you can't pass up. Now, some people still think he's a guard, and some people have him at the top of the 2nd round. But, you know, Casey Wegman's 38 years old. He hasn't decided if he's going to come back, just has a new baby. He's married to Danny Boatwright. I mean, honestly, you know, he's probably going to retire, if not now, certainly a year from now. But either way, the Chiefs have to have the center of the future. And Mike Pouncey is just too good of an athlete. You know, even if the Chiefs don't see him as a center, he could be a guard. They're going to have to dress Brian Waters eventually. You know, he's getting up there in age. He had an all-pro year. But John Asamoah is going to play left guard. You got Ryan Littlejoe at right guard. You know, Pouncey to me is the guy you put in the center and make him the next Tim Grenard. He'll play there for 10 years. So, you know, Gabe Camery, the offensive tackle, 6'7" from Wisconsin, might be an option. Maybe they move Brandon Albert to right side. You know, I've been charting this course with Ryan Mouth, the quarterback from Arkansas. If he's there at number 21, did the Chiefs take a flyer on him? You know, people think he's going to be the next Philip Rivers or the next Ryan Leaf, and that's a pretty big gap there in opinions from some of the so-called experts in the National Football League. But I know the Chiefs have looked at him, and they are going to take a quarterback. There's no question in this draft.
Okay, if Pouncey's gone, let's say Pouncey goes 20th to the Buccaneers, who do you think the Chiefs will get with there? Do you think he's going to be there at 21?
I think he's going to be there at 21 because I think enough people view him as a late first rounder, early second rounder. And yeah, to some degree he might be a reach, but for need, athleticism, and a guy you can plug in the middle of your offensive line right now, he's definitely a pick for me.
And the Rudy Nicewander experiment at center is not going to work much because he started and played there in 2009. You think he's gone?
You know, I love Rudy. I mean, absolute warrior, good guy, good athlete, good player. He's not a center. I mean, I think he's a guard. And if they keep him, maybe they keep him as a backup, depending on what they do with Waters and Asamoah. You know, if one flips or they get rid of Waters altogether. You know, I think if we'd had an NFL labor agreement, I think Brian Waters might be a guy that the Chiefs actually traded. I know the Colts would like to have brought in a veteran offensive lineman to kind of take place of what happened with them missing Ryan Littlejoe. They underestimated his value, and the Chiefs got a great free agent signing a year ago. But again, Justin Houston, the outside linebacker from Houston, might be a guy that might be available. I thought he'd be top 4, maybe 14, 15. Looks most draft experts think now he's probably anywhere from 25 to 30. So he'd be a good value pick for the Chiefs as well. Because again, we said this last week, I don't think the Chiefs are going to sign Tom Bahali, at least not at this point.
In the second round, what do you look for?
They're going to draft their quarterback. If it's not in the first round, it's going to be the second round. And Colin Kaepernick, the kid from Nevada, is just rising up the draft charts. I actually thought the Chiefs may maybe move in the third and fourth round, but this kid right now is one of the highest-rated quarterbacks that nobody knows about. The Washington Redskins are really high in him. He could go even as high as the top of the second round. I think you could see 6 or 7 quarterbacks taken in the first 50 picks. And if he can somehow get to the 21st pick of the second round and he's there, I know the Chiefs have spent some time with him. I know they really like him. He is basically, he's the poor man's Ben Roethlisberger. In basketball terms, he's got court awareness. I mean, he just has vision around him. He doesn't have the most accurate arm. He doesn't throw that. He doesn't always make good decisions when he's on the run. He's got a good arm. It's not a cannon like Ryan Mallett's, but he doesn't have the speed of Cam Newton, but he's pretty fast anyway. And right now, I think he's probably the third best quarterback that's going to be available in this draft, and there's going to be names that are going to be going ahead of him. But in the second round, if he's there, I don't see how the Chiefs pass up on him.
Third round.
Edmund Gates, wide receiver, Abilene Christian. Kind of reminds me of a poor man's Stephon Page, and who had a brilliant career in the Chiefs. I think it was undrafted or 10th round back then or whatever it was. Small college guy, has tremendous hands, ability to go over the middle. Has a motor, has a chip on his shoulder. He's gone in his offseason workouts from a 5th or 6th rounder to as high as possibly a 2nd. Hopefully he's there in the 3rd round. John Chris, who does the mock drafts for Scout.com, also has him in the 3rd round. This is a special player. This is a guy who can play opposite Dwayne Bowe. You add Tony Moeaki to the mix. You get a guy like Edmund Gates, who's just going to be one of these guys that's going to play in the NFL for 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons and be productive. He's got good speed. He's not afraid to go over the middle. He can stretch the field. Then you use Dexter McCluster wisely. I think you use him in a situation where you look at him and you put him in the slot and you put him out there and you don't ask too much of him. Have him be your 3rd option, which is a pretty good 3rd option to have. Then you got, I mentioned, Tony Moeaki. Then you got 4 capable receivers for Matt Castle. If they approve the offensive line with the first pick, it just makes a lot of sense. I felt if the Chiefs had free agency, they were going to spend all their time on drafting on signing defense and addressing their offense in this draft. I still think that's the plan. I still think they're going to address the offense. Then again, I wouldn't be surprised if Kendrick Ellis, a defensive tackle from Hampton, is a guy that might be available in the 3rd round. He may be an option. Phil Taylor, the nose tackle from Baylor, is dropping down virtually every draft board. Some guys have him high 1st round. Some guys have him in the 3rd round, late 2nd round, middle 2nd round. He's kind of an enigma. He's got the size, he's got the girth, he's got the talent, but sometimes he doesn't apply all those things together at the same time. So his stock is plummeting. In the 2nd round, he could be an option. And if Colin Kaepernick falls in the 3rd round, maybe that's an option for the Chiefs. So I'm not saying the Chiefs won't take defense, but I think whenever free agency begins, that's kind of where they're going to focus. And I think they can fill some really neat offensive positions, center, quarterback, wide receiver, certainly offensive line in the first 4 picks of this draft.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're 6 days away from the NFL draft. It's going to be a good time. Chiefs pick 21st overall. Thank you for tuning in for this episode of Warpaint TV. Once again, I'm Shane Williams, along with Chiefs Insider Nick Athan. Until next time, keep it right here at warpaintillustrated.com.
Don't miss another edition of Warpaint Illustrated, the magazine. To get your subscription today, call 888-979-0979. That's 888-979-0979, or check out warpaintillustrated.com.